Welcome to a special edition of the Brewer Fanatic podcast. My name's Brock Beauchamp, and this is Jason Wang. You're not hearing Spencer and Jack because they're both at the game, and we will be doing live post games throughout the Brewers run, hopefully a deep run. And Jack's going to be, he's heading to the clubhouse right now, so we're filling in. We'll do what we can. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Great way to wake up this morning. I'm not gonna lie, I woke up about 10 minutes before first pitch. So first thing I saw was Michael Busch homer. But rest of the day got a little bit better after that. Can't complain.
Yeah, starting the game off with that homer, it's kind of like, oh, so is this how this day is going to be? And then I was sitting there, bottom of the first, and double, double, double. And you're like, oh, this is going to be a very different day. And I don't know, this Brewers team just feels different than it has in a couple of years. I don't want to get the cart ahead of the horse here, but this just does feel different.
Yeah, there were a lot of moments in the game that, outside of the hitting piece that were really indicative of that in terms of this, they kept talking about it on the broadcast, like this team's nickname is like the average shows. And, they won very handedly. I don't think they hit a single home run ever. They just didn't bother with that. And I don't think that's a case of they don't want to. I don't think it's like the curmudgeons on Facebook that are like hitting home runs is like worse than, committing a hate crime. But I think it's just you have a lot of smaller guys on the roster. They've been making it work, playing small ball. I mean, they'll go for doubles in the corners. They love that kind of stuff. But they see a good pitch, they'll hit it. And if they don't, they'll, kind of take. I know heading into this series, one of the concerns that we had was the Cubs pitching staff gave gave up the fewest walks in all baseball in the regular season, and
Yeah.
a lot of the swing decisions in this game were great. So there was like that, the way the general approach played, and even something as small as William Contreras scoring on second after that Nico Horner error. Like that's just keeping your eyes up, and like Nico Horner is a great defender, but no one is infallible, and like making sure that he was able to put his foot on the gas when he needed to. Like that was a big moment. Ultimately, did that one run like really feel like it swung anything like score wise at the end? Maybe not, but that momentum is huge, I think. So
Yeah, those first two innings were just such a perfect encapsulation of a very well managed and a very smart baseball team. They
yeah,
came out against Matthew Boyd and they were just laying into him. First pitch, first pitch, first pitch. And Boyd was just getting rocked.
yeah,
And then the moment Boyd was out of the game, then the Brewers kind of reverted back to who they are. And they're like, yeah, we'll take this pitch. And that Blake Perkins PA in, let's see, was that the first or second? It must have been the first. Was just brilliant. Where he laid off a 2-2, was it maybe a slider, and it was just borderline, but it didn't quite clip the zone, and
mm,
he ended up working a 10 pitch at bat there. Man, I mean they could not have played more flawless baseball through those first few innings. Like you said, Contreras having his head up as he rounds third, he sees Horner's not going to get the ball to home plate, and he just runs home. And it's not like William has afterburners to turn on. It took him a while to get to third
yeah,
and or get from third to home, and he still made it pretty handily. Just a
right,
really heads up play from a smart team.
yeah. I mean, you could kind of see like the hustle was there, and it's interesting because the decision for the Cubs to start Matt Boyd, I think, surprised a lot of people because he relatively short rest. He threw 58 pitches a couple days ago against the Padres, but also like the Cubs bullpen is pretty depleted relative to the Brewers. Everybody's a fresh arm, and I think that game plan was like Boyd is almost definitely not going to be at 100%. Like if there's going to be a time to attack the number one starter this year, it's going to be now. Let's take it to him. Let's see what we got. And I also noticed like I don't think it was just a Boyd thing, but like Boyd, I saw some stuff. I mean, Ben Brown just kind of does this. Ben Brown, but like the Cubs, when they were missing big, and then it kind of forced them into unfavorable counts, right? So the Brewers are getting up 2-1, 3-1, and it's like, all right, like here's a fastball and down the middle, meatball type stuff. Please don't swing. And that's where you got a lot of like great line drive contact out of the lineup in those first few innings, in the first half, and that's kind of what laid the groundwork for that scoring. But I think that decision and that game plan was probably a major point of discussion heading into today. Of like, oh, how are we going to fry Matt Boyd essentially?
Yeah, and you the first couple years of having the buy round in baseball, teams would come out and they just looked flat.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the Brewers were doing. This year it appears that teams are being a little bit more aggressive with having scrimmages and stuff like that to try to keep fresh. I know the Jays were doing it, Brewers were doing it, um, but the Jays are up right now, so maybe we're seeing an altered approach after these teams get a couple of years to see how the buy round hurts them
Right.
on top of allows their guys to heal up. And yeah, man, I the Brewers just did such an excellent job of just nuking Craig Counsell's plans within the first like 15 minutes of the game. Because,
Yeah.
on paper, Boyd's coming in with a little bit, 1 day shorter rest, but he only threw 60-ish pitches. You know, Asking him to get another 60 pitches today, not an unreasonable thing,
Right.
especially considering the Cubs pitching staff's in a little bit of dire shape. But having the lefty Boyd and then chasing him, try to get maybe 2 point something innings out of Soroka from the right side. That's not a bad, kind of tit for tat playing with the Brewers lineup a little bit there. And
Hmm.
boy, they just shot that to hell in like 3 minutes.
Right.
And I wonder what the lasting implications of that are going to be in this series. Where, thank God for Aaron Savali from the Cubs side, because
Right.
without him, they would really be in a difficult position because they would have had to start burning legit arms in this game
Yeah.
if not for Savali going what 4 something.
Yeah, they ended up just throwing what, three starters at the problem with like Ben Brown, Savali, and
Yeah,
Boyd, and I think it's one of those situations where like Boyd just didn't give them any sort of length.
no,
Soroka was like, "Here's a little bit, still not a
yeah,
lot. Hate to break it to you, pal." And yeah, that's kind of like what the mop up guy situations are for. But I mean, moving forward, I know they have tomorrow off. I think the next game
yeah,
is on Monday, so it'll give them a
yeah,
little bit more breathing room to kind of set things up. But that speaks to the benefit of the buy round too. I think it's a good point you brought up that this format is like relatively new. I didn't start watching baseball until 2022, so I think that was the first year where there was like a proper wild card series versus a single playing game.
yeah.
And then I remember in 2023, everybody was like, I mean, the Brewers got bounced by the D-backs. Like the Braves got bounced. A bunch of the Dodgers got bounced.
Orioles
A
got
bunch of
bounced
teams,
that year, I think too.
right? And
Yeah,
everyone was like, "Oh, the buy round is cursed, dude. Like you should not want to go to the buy round." And then 24, the bracket made a lot more sense. And I think, as you said, this year, I think they were talking about on the broadcast. Like Pat Murphy was like, "Yeah, we had like pretty intense practices leading up to this. Like we still wanted to give everybody some rest, but you don't want to start off any playoff series cold. Like you want to kind of already be back in the groove, back in the swing of things, ready for that postseason environment as close as you can get. Obviously, it's impossible to recreate it perfectly, but as close as you can get. And I think that's like everybody's seemed ready to play. Right? It didn't take them 2, 3, 4 innings to warm up, like we
no,
sometimes see in the past. They were like, dude, I'm looking at this lefty on the mound. I'm taking him to doubles alley right now.
yep,
So I think that was like an encouraging thing, like starting off on the right foot.
absolutely. And the first what 2 pitches of the game when Peralta gave up the homer to Bush, and on the second or third pitch, I can't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of like, oh no, is this Byrounditis again? Is this all happening again? And then Peralta, well, he kind of lost focus there a couple times in the third or fourth innings.
Mm-hmm.
Was just rock solid, the close to the best version of Freddie Peralta you could ask for, especially in the postseason,
Yeah.
and posted him to that lead. Thank God Freddie came back and he's just like, I'm just going to throw strikes. I'm not going to do the Freddie Peralta nibble. I'm not going to make this a whole experience. We're just going to get through 6 innings relatively clean. And what do you go? 5 1/3, 5 2/3.
Yeah. I think it was five and
Uh,
two thirds.
I was a little bit surprised to see him come out in the sixth. I just didn't really see the point, considering it was 9-1 at that point. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, why aren't you throwing? Maybe not. I would not have put Miz in the sixth inning, but I would have liked to have seen Miz in like the eighth, maybe, just to
Mm-hmm.
see postseason Miz. What's that look like? And the stakes
Right.
could not have been lower because
Right.
what's he going to do? Give up 8 runs? Technically feasible, but probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk more about Freddie Peralta start because
Yeah,
I think it was very it was a great illustration of how different he's been this year than in years past. Like I think a lot of people see Freddie Peralta as like a guy who's inconsistent. You know, he'll labor through outings, and especially in the postseason, his results have been mixed. I think this is the first Freddie Peralta postseason start the Brewers have won, if I'm not mistaken, which is a crazy stat.
It is,
But
yeah.
I
Not
yeah
only that's his first postseason appearance, which I think he's come in relief like 3 times.
yeah that's
It is the first postseason game that Freddie Peralta has been alive for, as far as I can tell, where the Brewers won.
yeah
So it's a pretty big day.
and I think he beat those like campaigns of the postseason allegations. Like, yeah, he gave up 2 bombs, but they were solo shots. That first pitch to Bush, that was like legitimately a middle fastball. That was a mistake, but I think it showed a lot of composure. That he was like, okay, it's time to lock in now. I'm gonna dominate these hitters in the zone because I trust my stuff. It is disgusting this year. I'm throwing changeups to righties. I'm just letting them know down and in, like this is my off speed stuff. Have fun trying to hit it. And I think that's when we see Freddie Peralta at his best is when he's confident and when he isn't kind of like fooling around on the edges, missing wide, getting into
Yeah.
bad counts, and then getting punished for it. So I think like he had a great year this year. Definitely going to get some Cy Young votes. He's not going to win, but he's going to get some. He's going to be on the get some votes
He'll
for
get some
sure.
down
And
ballots. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But if the Brewers keep going, I am excited to see what Probably can accomplish in further postseason starts, and if he continues to bring this version of himself as the stakes continue to get higher.
Yeah. And, if Freddie Peralta's given up solo homers, you're probably doing okay for yourself because the way he's typically going to kill you is he's going to give up a bloop, a walk, and a blast. And
Yeah,
then all of
that
a sudden
yeah,
you're like, oh, dude, you were flawless for 4 innings, and now all of a sudden you've given up 3 runs in like 2 minutes.
right.
Um, and he walked a few too many guys today. He walked three. That's not what you really want to see. But
Mm-hmm.
giving up 2 solo blasts, excellent start for him. Especially, I'm sure his postseason nerves are way up. He's the guy now,
Yeah,
and a lot riding on his shoulders. And just a matter of seeing who the Brewers can chase him with, because I have some questions about the rotation through this series, especially, Woody's out now. Miz just really kind of fell flat there at the end, and
right.
I wanted to see him, in game 2. Um, but the Brewers are still in way better shape than the Cubs. So pitching advantage is still clearly in Milwaukee's favor, especially
Yeah,
after the roughhousing today.
right. I think I think Priest's going out for game 2. That's going to be another point of uncertainty. To be honest, like I haven't been watching the Brewers for very long, but I don't think I need to understand like every win you kind of have to take with a grain of salt these days because they've been in spots where it's like great regular season, bounce in the first round, or like the Mets series, like oh they're looking really good, and then they just kind of fall flat. So even in a dominant game like this, like they did make some mistakes and they did do some things that I think Chicago could punish harder in the future, right? Like 3 bombs, 2 of them
3 bombs, yeah.
conceded to Freddie Peralta, one of them by Koenig. Those are all solo shots, thank goodness. But if you had guys on base or if things are starting to get rolling, if the pitching performance is, even slightly worse, like you said, Peralta also gave up 3 walks, right? Like
Yeah.
there are opportunities for this lineup to go big, and I think they are more evenly matched than this game may have portrayed if you just viewed this in a vacuum. And we had a whole season of results to kind of display that. I think the Cubs won 7-6, like the 13 games they played across the year. They have so many offensive threats on this team that can take you deep, and if you're not careful for all 27 outs, one of them could be the one that kind of serves as an inflection point. So I'm like excited about what's going on. I think, like you said, the team showed a lot of really great qualities in this game, but they also showed some pretty glaring areas of weakness that could be exploited, if not by the Cubs this round, definitely by one of the other teams in the NL side of the bracket,
Yeah.
in the CS.
Yeah. It's the Cubs team is really interesting because in the first half of the season, their offense was terrifying. I mean, just everything was going full bore.
Yeah,
You were getting the version of Kyle Tucker that, as an opposing pitcher, you didn't want to see. PCA was just an absolute maniac. Um, just up and down the lineup. They had, depending on the night, 6, 7, 8 guys who could do damage to you in a variety of ways. And then the second half of the season, especially the last couple of months, it was a very different Cubs team with largely the same roster. They just Kyle Tucker is just really struggling coming off injury. He has not done much of anything. He had a couple of singles in Game 3 against the Padres, but he does not look like the same guy. But 3 bombs given up in a single game. If that first half Cubs team starts coming back later in the series, it's not going to be a Brewers cakewalk. These are two
Right.
very evenly matched teams. Yeah, Nico Horner kicked the ball today. Nico Horner doesn't usually kick balls. Um, he and Dansby Swanson, and with Pete Crow, Armstrong in center, that's as good a up the middle as there is in baseball.
Yeah.
And uh, particularly Jack Stern's been talking a lot lately about how the Cubs line up very well against what the Brewers do best.
Right.
The Cubs pitching does not like to allow walks. The Brewers are what I think they were third, and
Yeah. They walk a lot.
yeah, they walk a lot. And the Brewers put the ball in play, and then they run around the bases like mad, like crazy people.
Yeah.
And the Cubs up the middle, and then Matt Shaw at third too. So it's not, I mean, just generally, Ian Happ's good and left. They just have a really, really good defense, and
Yeah.
if the Brewers are relying on BABIP to get them through without some power to back it up, the Cubs could make this a really, really difficult series on them.
Absolutely. I think the Cubs had the second most defensive runs saved as a team, and it was like more than twice as many as the
Yeah,
Brewers, and a lot of it was because of those guys that you brought up. Like their middle infield is dangerous. Like that is usually
yeah,
like a steel wall, an iron curtain, right? That you can't really get past. PCA, one of the best center fielders in the game. Ian Happ, former Gold Glover. Like they got guys for sure. And when it comes to BABIP, like BABIP is the whole reason it's a stat is people are trying to assess like whether your batting average is lucky or not, right? Like if
mm-hmm.
you have a suspiciously high BABIP, is that going to be sustainable throughout the series? I'm really curious to know, like in that Cubs locker room right now and tonight, what they're talking about and what adjustments they're going to make for Monday or for the next game, to see like, okay, we kind of got thrashed a little bit. Happens, right? Baseball happens. Like games can go either way. Like what are they going to? How are they going to set up differently? What's their pitching approach going to be different? How's it going to be different the next time these two teams meet? Because I would be very surprised if what we saw today, with like just a ton of balls in play, dropping for hits, ton of doubles, like if that happens again, I would be pretty shocked because the Cubs are not a team that usually gives up and rolls over that easily.
No, absolutely not. Especially, a lot of the Brewers' hits weren't those, wall banging doubles. They were,
Right.
Blake Perkins just over the head of the shortstop,
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not hitting those just scorching doubles and you're relying on just clearing the shortstop's glove or just getting past the second baseman or the first baseman boots it or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
in all likelihood, one of those 5 games in a 5 game set, you're going to get burned bad by that
Right.
approach. There's going to be a game where your expected batting average is 300, and you look up at the scoreboard at the end of the game, you're like, we have 3 hits. That's just how BABIP works. The smaller the sample you get, the wilder it gets. And when you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about, the course of a game where you have, somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 40 PAs, um, the variance can be enormous. And that's why somebody from the Brewers is going to have to step up and start hitting for some power for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's worsened by the fact that of all the hits they got today, 3 of them were from a guy who may not be coming back for this series in Jackson Churio, right? He got taken out after that
Right.
third hit because of the
Yeah.
hamstring issue. They got some good. They brought in Isaac Collins to play right field for today. They had Lockridge as like a defensive guy in the last few innings of the game. And Jackson Churio wasn't otherworldly this year. He was good, but he had a ton of stuff that he struggled with, as is expected from a young player. But without him in the postseason, like that is to me like a pretty big offensive loss. He's one of the guys that like can actually hit for power. You still got Andrew Vaughn, but Andrew Vaughn is Andrew Vaughn.
Yep.
Depending on the morning I wake up, I don't know if he's good or bad. And other than
I
that,
usually
like
rotate 4 or 5 times through good and
yeah,
bad
like
every
the
day. I think about
variability
Andrew
levels.
Vaughn.
the more humid, the more bearish I am on Andrew Vaughn. But yeah, like they don't have. I think I was writing about this in the last piece I did for Brewer Fanatic on this matchup, and it's like you look at the Cubs lineup, and there are four guys that you're like, I do not want to pitch to these guys, and I know that they're threats. On the Brewers, it's very much a next man up kind of lineup, and part of that is because no one is really like a 30-40 bomb kind of threat. And without the power, I think I don't know the number off the top of my head, but Sarah Langs talks about this pretty much every postseason, which is like 9 times out of 10, roughly, the team that hits the most homers wins the postseason series, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And with like you said, with the defense that the Cubs have, you kind of got to take the defense out of it if you want to have the greatest chance of success. So unless we start getting some balls out, I still think the series is closer than people might expect based on today's game.
Yeah, as much fun as it is to to have watched those first two innings, do not think that in any way, shape, or form carries over to game two.
Right.
That's not the way baseball works. It's going to be a different guy on the mound, and everyone's going to have a little bit more film and a little bit better idea of what the other team's approach is, and the Cubs are going to respond. They're a good team. I would say they are very equally matched to the Brewers.
Right.
And I would have given the nod to the Cubs before the series if Cade Horton wouldn't have gotten injured. That really puts a damper on the Cubs'
Right.
chances in the series. Really hurts them in the longer series. They could, get through the Padres series 3 games. You
Mm-hmm.
can make it without Horton, but now you're going to be playing 3, 4, 5 games. It's a lot harder, and you have Yelich, who what do you end the season with 29 home runs, something like that. So
Something like that.
he's the only like what I would consider actual power guy, and he's I 2018, 2019 Yelich, legit power guy, huge power guy.
Right.
I don't really view this version of Yelich as a power guy, where like Churrio's very young and he had up and down stats this year, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
but man, that kid, he's just so electric. He's the type of guy who you want out in the field in the biggest games because he
Right.
does not seem to be afraid of those moments, and he will make things happen with his legs, his arm, his glove, whatever tool he has at the moment. And I personally am not very sold on Isaac Collins. I think we're going to look back in 5 years, and I think this is going to be far and away Isaac Collins' best year. I think there's a significant drop off from going from Churio to Collins. Yeah, you're not
I
buying
mean,
me on
no,
that.
I unfortunately low key agree. So the thing with Collins is like, I think he ended the season with kind of a whimper. Like, dude, he was like, "Oh, this guy might be in a rookie of the year." Like Drake Baldwin, who,
Yeah,
Cade Wharton, who, and then I was like, "Oh, never mind. He actually might not make the division series roster. So let's
yeah,
change
right.
our mind on that." Um, so yeah, it's definitely a downgrade. I think Churio like so if you look at the team by slugging percentage, and like, Andrew Vaughn obviously leads because he only played like half a season with the Brewers. Churio's number one at a 463 slugging percentage, and then it's Yelich at 452, and then it's Andrew Monasterio and his 130 plate appearances. So like just off of that, and then it's Bryce Terang, right? So like those guys, that should be enough to tell you like, wow, we really just do not have the pop in this lineup, and that to me, outside of like the starting pitching rotation churn that we're currently going through, is like one of the most glaring weaknesses that the Brewers have. When it comes to Isaac Collins, like he's good, but he's just not like you said. It is a clear downgrade. I mean, Churio hit 35 doubles, 21 homers. Collins hit 20 doubles, 9 homers, but he also slowed down a lot recently, and we don't know if that's like a nagging injury that's kind of under the covers or just people adapting to him as a rookie. Like, oh, we've got more info on Collins. This is how we're going to attack him now. So hopefully that won't be too much of a nail in the coffin for the Brewers, and I believe in the team that they'll like adapt and do what they can with what they have. But it's definitely something that's a concern moving forward.
Absolutely. And just looking it up, Collins ended the season in, let's see here, 58 PAs. He had just a 664 OPS. Now, that was backed by a 229 BABIP. So I would have to dig a lot more into the numbers to see. He was still walking a ton, a ton. He had an
Yeah.
ISO discipline of like 150 during that time, which is kind of ridiculous. But I would have to see is did he get too passive? Why is the BABIP so low? Are pitchers did they figure him out? Is it a Max Kepler thing where he's just not making good contact, and you're like, why does this guy always have a 220 batting average? And you're like, oh yeah, that's right, because he hits an infield fly like every fourth PA. Um,
Right.
you're gonna have a crappy batting average if you're making that kind of contact. So the Churio news, Jack is in the locker room right now, and he said he's going to get back to us and write something up as soon as he can find out more about Churio. Um, Murph did that brief in-game interview. Always hard to tell whether Murph is taking something entirely seriously or not. So, you know, you just never know if he's just messing with everyone or if he's
Dude,
actually just
what
saying
what
something.
what snack you think he had in the pocket today, Brock? You think it was like a hot pocket or bagel
It'd be
bites?
super weird if it was like an enchilada or something.
Dude, I feel
Just
like it
pulls it
might be
out and it's
something.
just like all goopy and cheese is like dripping down.
He might be that guy though, because what did he pull out the first time? The pancake?
Pancake, and
I
then he
mean, we
went
starting
to
off with the
a
pancake, Brock. That could be anything in that pocket. It could be a
yeah,
dumpling, could be
yeah,
a pierogi, could be like a Jamaican meat patty. Like I feel like Pat Murphy's about that culture.
yeah. But if he's gonna go that route, it'd make way more sense to go for like the empanada. That's
Yeah,
that's
because it's covered.
yeah, it's all sealed up. But his second one was it a quesadilla? What was the second
Yeah,
one that he pulled out? Yeah, a
yeah.
quesadilla.
That's
Yeah,
risky.
it
Because
is. It
depending on
is.
the cheese melt, that's risky. I feel like we're about two postseason wins away from pocket spaghetti. I
Oh,
feel
that
like he
would be
might he
brilliant.
might he might do that. I'm not gonna lie.
Like Game 6, the Brewers win the World Series. He just runs out and he's throwing spaghetti up in the air.
Dude,
Be
it's
wonderful.
it's the eighth inning. They got Mears out. There's like the go ahead runner for the other team is on second, and Murphy is just shoving spaghetti meatballs into his face out of his pocket, bro. That's gonna be an all time web gem right there.
Yes, absolutely. Um, well, you have completely derailed any thought process I had on the rest of
Sorry,
this
my bad.
game.
I think another thing I wanted to talk about too was like,
Yeah,
another thing that the Brewers didn't see was really like the Cubs bullpen,
at
right? Like we
all.
said,
I mean,
right,
nobody worth mentioning for sure.
exactly. And I think that is like one of the most dangerous aspects of that team. Like they have a great offense and their relief unit is like kind of nuts. They don't have any like super big names. I think that people would know on the national stage if you haven't been kind of like following the Cubs
No.
pretty closely this year, but the numbers do not lie and they say they're pretty elite. So as if we get into like a more normal game where it's like tied or it's like within one or two runs heading into the sixth, seventh, and eighth, ninth, like and the Cubs have more rest, I think that's when like the advantage starts to swing towards Chicago because look, I think that Brewers have a good bullpen as well. I don't necessarily know if it's as elite or as locked down as what the Cubs have, and some of the guys make mistakes. I mean, we saw Kenny go today again. If that was a closer game, that's a much bigger swing and win probability.
Yeah.
So like that's another kind of uncertain aspect of this series that we don't really have any data on in terms of how they're going to match up in October.
And that's absolutely true. And like I had to kind of chastise one of our Padres writers because he was just furious that he's like, "Oh my God, my team was just shut down by this bunch of no-name journeymen." I'm like, "That's not really fair." Now, you're probably thinking about the Cubs bullpen from the beginning of the season when they were like wheeling out the corpse of Ryan Presley Weekend at Bernie style. And unsurprisingly, he gave up a ERA of like 18, but
Yeah,
the Cubs really patched it together throughout the season. And, they got guys like Plenty just, wicking it up to triple digits. And we didn't get to see any of the guys who actually are scary and the guys who Craig Counsell is going to use later in the series to either hold or get back a lead. Um, and yeah, the Cubs bullpen is pretty intimidating, and I feel like it's probably a bit of a strength over the current Brewers bullpen, just because Brewers bullpen's dinged up. It's not what we all kind of hoped it would be. Um, I'm pretty skeptical what version of McGill we're going to be getting in this.
right.
And if you get the 99-mile-an-hour McGill, who is just absolutely wicking it up with velocity, but then doing has the massive velocity discrepancy to his off speed stuff, keeping
Mhm.
hitters off balance. Okay, that is a really big uh, swing toward the Brewers, but I'm just not convinced that McGill is here.
Yeah, it's I mean, he had a pretty serious injury, and then not a ton of time to like really come back and like ramp up, right? So there's that.
He just threw the one time the last day of the season, right?
I think it was game 162. It was literally
Yeah,
like, "This is your rehab assignment, buddy. Good luck."
yeah.
You know, try not to take it too seriously. But yeah, it's funny you bring up Ryan Presley because I saw so many tweets about like that one game he had where it's like, "Oh, Ryan Presley has thrown MLB's first ever yes hitter." I was like, "Yeah, that's crazy." But yeah, the Cubs. I mean,
That's a great line, man.
yeah,
That is a great line.
like it's dangerous, and like you said, like Palencia, Brad Keller, like these aren't names that are like, wow, that's the Mariano Rivera of our era. But
Yeah,
like again, the numbers don't lie. I think where the Brewers have strength is like length, right? Like they have a couple
yeah,
guys that can go multiple innings, but that's not always like there are going to be a lot more times, in my opinion, where you're going to need like I'd rather have four guys that can shut down one inning apiece rather than like two guys that can go like two or three, right? Like Miz and Ashby are great, but when it comes to high leverage, close games, and I imagine at least one of these in the series will be like that. Um, to me, I think that the Chicago Cubs have a more like orthodox, like strong bullpen in those situations.
yeah. And it's a difference between building a team for 162 and building a team for the postseason, which can be two very different things.
Yeah.
I, um, Jason popping in. He's one of our Cubs writers, and I was helping them out with the post games for the Cubs Padres series earlier. Uh, but now I've switched to my actual allegiance, which is the Brewers. So, hi Jason. Sorry you lost. Bummer for you. No, you're gonna be able to talk trash to us later, I'm sure. But building for 162, you want Aaron Ashby, you want DL Hall. Well, not really this
Mm.
version of DL Hall, but you get what I mean. A guy
Right.
who's going to go out there and he's going to throw anywhere between 1 and 2.2 innings. Maybe give up a run, effective, four-ish ERA. Just be a good bridge to the later half of the bullpen. Those guys have way less utility in the postseason because you're going to be taking your excellent one inning guys and you're going to be trying to get 1.2 innings out of them. You might be trying to get two. If you're Mike Schilt of the Padres, you're going to be trying to get 4.5 innings out of one of them, and it's going to blow up. But the general idea is you're going to extend those really high end one inning relievers. And like
Mhm.
you said, I think the Cubs have the advantage in that.
Especially because, in the regular season, you are pretty much playing every day. In this division series, you get an off day tomorrow, you get an off day Tuesday, you get an off day Friday,
I
right?
hate
So
that.
those
Yeah.
so those guys that go one inning, like they might pitch damn near every game that they can in this series
Yeah.
versus like, yeah, like Buddy threw 4 days in a row, like he's done. He's toasted, right? So that's another thing too. I also think like today I know Cubs fans like to call American Family Field Wrigley North. I didn't understand that meme until a little later. I think the energy in AmFam, like I'm obviously watching it through a broadcast, but dude, it was popping in that stadium, and I imagine Wrigley's going to be similar, if not even crazier, because it's Wrigley, right? So like,
Yeah.
if this pretty young Brewer squad, pretty inexperienced Brewer squad, like if they're not ready for the smoke of being on foreign soil, having to play high leverage games, that also might be tough in game 3 and 4 when they're in Chicago instead of Milwaukee.
Absolutely. I mean, these two, people often say, "Oh, these two teams hate each other." I don't think that exists much in the modern game. There's too much
Mm-hmm.
in free agency, too much movement. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I just don't think players and coaches think that way anymore. But the fan bases sure hate each other,
absolutely.
and so there's going to be two very hostile environments for these teams to travel to. And yeah,
Yeah,
there's going to be fans from the other team in each because they're only 95 miles apart. But yeah, I mean, AmFam's going to be packed with Brewers fans. It's not going to be the whole Wrigley North thing. I just find so irritating because yeah, if it's a Tuesday in May, there's a lot of Cubs fans there.
sure.
What of it? This is October, the second round. This is going to be Brewers fans who are here. you're
Yeah.
not gonna have 30% Cubs fans.
Yeah. I also know like I think the Wednesday is like a day. Everything's weird because everything is on Pacific time for me. So I think Wednesday is like 4 p.m. in Chicago. So maybe there'll be fewer people. I know like Cleveland had an issue selling out games because MLB was like, yeah, your games are on 1 p.m. on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is like, it makes it tough for the fans to pull up in full strength there. But yeah, like I mean, they played well today when the fans had their back. Reverse it. I don't know how they're gonna deal with it. I mean, this seems like a team that is wise beyond their years, honestly, right? Like the way that they play the game, the fundamentals, like everything they do, you would never guess that a lot of these guys are rookies, like Durbin.
Yep.
We talk about Isaac Collins. A lot of these other guys are, if they're not rookies, are super young. But until we see that and what they do in the situations for real, we can only kind of guesstimate how they're going to be able to put up with that pressure.
Yeah, and that is absolutely going to be the case. I don't have a whole lot of questions about this team showing up prepared with their young players, not playing out of their mind. Like I watched the Brewer or the Cubs Padres series, and there's a lot of bad baseball in that series. Pete Crow Armstrong is just swinging out of his shoes like madman. Fernando Tatis had three of the worst games I've ever seen him have. These young players, they can do this, and I think it is such a sign of not only Murphy is a really good clubhouse guy, and he keeps everybody focused, but the Brewers development staff, they are working some voodoo magic down
Yeah,
throughout the organization because you look at what they do. They bring over Caleb Durbin, and he is just, from the Yankees. They have a couple months with him, and he's just terrible. But then, the second half of the season, they get him doing everything, quote unquote, the Brewers way, and he's a respectable player. Andrew Vaughn, the White Sox, he is just a joke of a player for what 3-4 years,
mm,
and the Brewers had him for like 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden he's good now. I
yeah,
don't understand what this organization does, but they have it locked down on so many different levels. It's just really impressive. And Brewers fans should take a moment and appreciate this is absolutely the golden era of Brewers baseball because it is
right.
not often when an organization just does everything right. They haven't won
Yeah,
the big game yet, but that's baseball.
I mean, dude, all of those trades, like the Durbin trade with the Yankees for Williams, the Quinn Priester trade. I feel like in the moment it's always like, man, what is going on? Like, okay, I get it. Like,
Oh my God, Red Sox fans were just mocking the Brewers over the Quinn
yeah,
Priester trade. And I had to go into our Red Sox Slack and be like, dude, don't. You
yeah,
are going to regret laughing because the
right,
Brewers are going to do something with Quinn Priester. It is like the classic Sam Miller tweet. Oh, great trade for the Rays. Who'd they get?
yeah.
Where because if the Brewers are targeting a pitcher, you should wonder what you're looking at wrong about that pitcher. And Quinn
It,
Priester is yet another example of that.
so many examples top to bottom. Like, again, I've only really been following the team since 2022, but you had Quinn Priester, obviously, Bryce Wilson,
Yeah.
Grant Anderson, Nick Mears. These guys were like before this memes. They're like, dude, what? How did
Yeah.
this guy's ERA is in Arabic? Like, how is it so high? That's insane.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, now Nick Mears is pitching the ninth and he's throwing disgusting stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, Caleb Durbin's a 5'6" third baseman who is somehow had above average OPS plus on the year, playing a position that he wasn't really playing that much prior. And I think a lot of it is like they establish trust their players. Like everybody is, there's no egos in that locker room. It's very much
No.
like a team environment from what I've heard. And it's like there's trust. Like Pat Murphy trusts in his guys. They trust in him. Hopefully everybody trusts in the front office. I can't talk track, dude. After the Quinn Priester trade, I was like, okay, look, dude, I really don't know what's going on, but I'm also like, I'm not a professional, so maybe they know something I don't. They definitely knew something I didn't. They knew a lot that I didn't because,
Yeah.
man, that guy is went from a laughing stock to game two starter in the division series. So I think that they're running things right. The postseason results haven't always illustrated that. Again, it's chaos of baseball. But like you said, Brock, this year seems different. It smells different, tastes a little bit different, and it looks a little bit different. And I think this could be our best bet at winning it all in a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I want to see him go deep so badly. Want to see him go deep. It's you know
Hey,
I
you think?
I am so much older than you, Jason, and I do not remember the last time the Brewers went to the World Series. I
Oh, you're
was
like 29,
I th
30?
something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so you're not
I
that much older.
yeah yeah. I don't remember much about 29. I was very drunk that year. But no, I think I was four. Let's see. No, I would have been five. So I was living in northern Wisconsin, too young to really understand what was happening.
Hmm.
Um, and man, this city and that city and state needs at least a World Series appearance, man. It'd be
Yeah.
so much fun.
What do you thought? I think if there was a Brewers Mariners World Series, that would be like one of those teams finally got to get it done, bro. Like finally,
No,
like
no, dude. Okay, see, now you're just playing with fire, Jason, because I mean that is I'm pretty sure one of the signs of the apocalypse is a Mariners Brewers World Series.
what do you
I mean,
mean, dude?
your Mariners haven't even made it to the World Series, man. It's a really bad indication of the future of the world if they even make it.
Look,
Much
look,
less if
look,
they're
look.
squaring up against the Brewers. No, that's just
Part of the reason I like the Mariners and the Brewers so much is they're very similar in a lot of ways, right? Like
yeah,
they're two teams that are like they're smart, they're sneaky smart. If you don't know, you won't know, but if you do know, you do. They're sneaky smart. There's a lot of young talent on the team that again you may not have heard of if you don't follow the team. And both of them have like a fun, rich history that's kind of I don't want to say full of tragedy. I think that's like overdoing it, but I think like
yeah.
both teams deserve an World Series. Like the Texas Rangers got it playing, Creed in every game in 2023. Would it be so wrong if the Mariners and the Brewers finally got there? The Brewers finally got their free
Shout out to
burgers, right?
Creed.
Yeah, shout
No,
out to. I've actually I've listened to Creed recently, dude. I was like, dang,
why?
I,
Why?
I've
Why
been
are you
missing
doing
out.
that, Jason?
I thought the album art caught my eye. It looked a little strange. I was like, this looks a little scary. And I heard a mariachi cover of Higher, and I was like, oh, this song is pretty good. So I think Creed is underrated, man. I'm just being serious.
I
Young
seriously
kids like us
wonder
don't know
about
nothing
you
about Creed,
sometimes,
bro.
dude. Uh,
But
yeah.
I think that'd be a super fun World Series matchup is Brewers
Oh,
Seattle, and I would
absolutely, without a doubt, it would be incredibly fun. Just I love situations. Like I know Brewers fans hate the Cubs. I personally am not a Cubs hater. If they're playing the Brewers, obviously not a fan. But the Cleveland and Cubs going against each other in 2016 was kind of fun because it's like, well, one of these teams can't lose the World Series. So who's going to try harder to lose? Um, and those situations are fun. I mean, you pit two fan bases who don't get that kind of love very often. And hey, Brewers and Mariners, sign me up for that.
yeah. I mean, very selfishly, I'd also would actually be able to go to a game in
Yes.
person. Um, so that would be kind of cool. But dude, I'm tired of seeing the Yankees, Dodgers, Phillies, Astro, like these big 200 cajillion dollar payroll teams. Like, let's get some frugal Freddies in the World Series
Yeah.
this year. Am I right?
As long as it's not the Guardians, because they can't even sell out a postseason game. That's just embarrassing.
No, dude, the Guardians have been so okay. If the Guardians had played the Mariners in the DS, I don't know who I would root for. I honestly don't know.
No, no, God, no. Never root for the Guardians.
What?
No, no, their team, the team on the field, just fine, very likable, whatever,
Mm.
whatever. Um, but their ownership sucks, man. They're
Oh,
like,
for sure,
there's a
for
reason
sure,
they can't sell out a postseason game because their fan base is pissed at their owners.
for
And
sure.
they should be because they're just cheap bastards. And Brewers fans get up in arms about Adonacio. Adonacio is a fine owner by Major League Baseball standards, which is a very low bar to clear, but it's
Yeah,
still a bar to clear. Like
right.
Cleveland ownership, they suck, man. I mean, they
Yeah,
run what $90 million payrolls, something like that, and they've been just as successful as the Brewers. I mean, the Brewers are running what 125 this year, something like that.
yeah,
What do you think the Guardians could have looked like with 30 million more had their ownership not been so cheap? You know,
right.
had their front office very capable, smart, very very much like the Brewers. Except one of those teams' ownership groups is actually investing in the team, and the other is
Yeah,
not.
yeah. I mean, realistically, it's like it's the players on the field. Like, there's so many guys on the team I love. Like, I'm a big J Ram fan, big Stephen Kwan
Oh
fan.
yeah,
Yeah, but the ownership, dude, it's like one of my buddies is a Cleveland fan, and I can't tell who's more miserable, him or my buddy who's a Twins fan. I think this year, Twins guy won.
Oh
But
yeah,
on any
absolutely.
other
Twins
given
guys.
year,
No,
it's a
I mean,
toss up.
uh, because the Twins not only have equally bad ownership, they also suck.
They also
So,
have bad play.
I mean, there's no redeeming factors in Minnesota right now. So,
Yeah, it's tough
but
look.
yeah, so I know you gotta go. I gotta roll too. Wonderful win by the Brewers. We are gonna be back Monday. Gonna do this again. Hopefully, another win. Let's just move on. And who do you want to face in the CS?
Okay, so in the CS on the other side, it's what Phillies, Dodgers.
Phillies Dodgers. I
Dude,
mean, it's
I think it would be the Dodgers Brewers would be the David versus Goliath
it
of the
really would.
21st
It
century.
really would.
That
Oh,
that's what I want to
although
see.
the Phillies are right behind the Dodgers in payroll, so it's
100%.
not.
But the
Yeah,
Dodgers are more like okay. So I mean the Dodgers have like not only strength in money and superstar power, they have the fans, bro. Like there's Dodgers fans. I went to a Dodgers game in Seattle, and it was like you would have never known who was the home team, hundred
yeah.
percent, right?
No, I
So
mean
like I
Dodgers
love to
fans are
see
serious. There
their
aren't
payroll.
many things about Southern California where the fans are like serious about their teams. It's really the Dodgers and the Lakers are like the only
Yeah,
ones
that's it.
that really
That's
are.
it.
Yep.
Yeah. So I would love to see that, and I would love to see the Brewers win because I think that would like I would finally have like evidence to be like I love Shohei Ohtani too, y'all, but there's more to baseball than just throwing money at random
Yeah.
players that
And it
are
would be
foreigners.
sweet
So
revenge for the Brewers for 2018. So
yeah, that was
you
brutal.
know,
Yeah,
you know what? I'm happy with the Brewers playing the Dodgers as long as they win. I cannot handle losing the Dodgers again. No thanks.
yeah.
Anyway, thanks for checking in, everybody. We will be back Monday and for game two, hopefully with similar results. Catch you all later. Thanks.
Peace out, everybody.